Cayman Islands. World-class healthcare within your reach.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Coca-Cola, available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors. Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola. Brand Source Home Gallery, inspiring luxury. West Bay Pharmacy, taking care of your health. And JN Money.
From abroad to yard.
Fast, affordable, convenient.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. For the record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Ort Connor.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, O land of soft, fresh breezes and verdant trees so fair. Today is Monday, the 14th day of March 2022, right here in the Cayman Islands. We hope and we trust that everyone had a restful, peaceful, enjoyable weekend. Those of you who are on the roads of the Cayman Islands, again, we urge you to please, please, please be extremely cautious. Ensure that you observe the rules of the road, whether you're a pedestrian, whether you're a cyclist, or if you're operating any type of motorized vehicle on the roads of the Cayman Islands. Bear in mind that by observing the rules of the road, the life you save may be your own. If you're heading west into town, and you would have heard earlier, Silver Fox, Mr. Paul Akal, talking to you about traffic and the section of road from the Red Bay roundabout to Hurley's Grand Harbor. If you are going to South Sound, then you want to be in the extreme left lane. If you're continuing west towards Linford Pearson Highway, taking the route across Medak and the Lions Center, do not stay in the extreme left lane. If you're in that lane at this point in time while the adjustments are being made, it's going to take you into South Sound, which means if you have no intentions of taking the South Sound route, then you're going to have to use the old Crew Road Highway to get back over to Linford Pearson, which will then create another issue for you than trying to either get across to go to Crew Road or to join Linford Pearson again, because the traffic is then flowing fairly smoothly coming from the direction of Lions Center is flowing quite smoothly at that point in time. So it's going to create a problem for you. So if you're going west intending to take Linford Pearson, do not get into the extreme left lane when you're on the stretch of road between the roundabout and the Grand Harbor roundabout as well. I hope I explained that properly to you. And if you do find yourself there, then you're going to have to take Old Crew Road if you want to get back over to Linford Pearson Highway. For those of you who are celebrating a birthday today, we want to wish you a happy birthday, or if you celebrated one over the past few days, a belated happy birthday to you. Those of you who have lost loved ones, again, we want to extend our sincere condolences to you. We hope and we trust that your faith will help to carry you through these extremely challenging times, and that the memories of your loved ones will be a blessing to you as well. Those of you who are ill and are either at home or at a medical facility, we wish you a speedy recovery as well. So, folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles, as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, wherever that may be. As you know, For the Record is a show produced by the staff and management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I am your host, Art Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 10 a.m. During that period, our phone lines are open. The radio voice of Silver Fox waiting to take your calls. You can call us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flow. That toll-free number, 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. Email us at fortherecord, one word, fortherecord@candw.ky. WhatsApp us, 925-3261, where you can send us a text message or leave us a voice note, the contents of which will be played during the course of the show. And of course, you can follow us on YouTube simply by subscribing to Radio Cayman live stream. We will have guests in the studio later on this morning. Meanwhile, there are no guests in the studio. Of course, you would have heard on the news that the Privy Judicial Committee of the Privy Council in the UK has ruled in favor of the government in the Day Bawden case, and our newscaster, Ms. Carsley Fuller, would have given you that information and more details as well. I'm not sure whether or not time will allow for me to get into any details on it yet, but I just wanted to point that out to you and folks, and guess what else? Privy Council has also ruled in favor of the government of Bermuda, challenging the decision there by their Supreme Court as well. So in both instances, we see the Privy Council ruling in favor of the government. I always thought that they wanted to ensure some consistency in terms of their ruling, and what they have done in both instances, they have now set back the whole concept of same-sex marriages in two overseas territories as well. On another note, I want to share this WhatsApp message that I received from one of our listeners, and that person wanted to give a big shout out and thanks to all of the musicians who came out yesterday, Sunday, to the final election for the board members of the Cayman Music Association. The members, and it seems as if the officers of the executive, they shared with me that they are Steve Reed, President, Mr. Berman Scott, Vice President, the Secretary, Mr. John Henry Ebanks, Treasurer, Mr. Fred Sambula, Assistant Secretary, Sean Clark, and Assistant Treasurer Blake Hurlston. And they also want to point out that the moderator or the MC for that was Mr. Edlin Miles, and they want to thank everyone for coming out. Of course, we have read in the media that there seem to be some issues with the Cayman Islands Music Association, whether or not this decision will stand or whether or not we will see some challenges to this, any litigation or whatever in terms of whether or not their constitution, which I hope and I trust and I'm sure that they do have one, whether or not that has been followed as well. So we will wait and see what happens as regard that particular decision as well. So Just for your edification, what else do we have that we need to share with you as far as news is concerned? We see that the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service put out a release on the 12th of March about firearm incident at the Strand as well. So we continue to get incidents of the use of firearms in the Cayman Islands, not as prevalent as in other jurisdictions, but at the same time, folks, something that should be worrying, is worrying as well. We know the link between drug trafficking and gun running as well. They are inextricably linked. And once we are able to get control of one, it helps us basically to get control of the other. But it is something that we here in the Cayman Islands have to remain vigilant about. We know that the authorities are doing their best, and a lot of their successes we don't necessarily read about or hear about. It is sometimes done quietly, and that could be for various reasons, including the fact that you don't want the criminals to know exactly what your successes are, how they have come about as well, because then that tips them off that they should use other strategies instead. So we want to continue to support our law enforcement partners in the Cayman Islands, and that whole adage, if you see something, say something, applies as well. So if you know something, it is important. We want to keep the Cayman Islands as safe as possible. It would be foolish of us to believe that we can make it 100% safe, but we certainly can make it as safe as we possibly can by doing our part. The COVID report and update, one that was received on the 11th of March, and they indicated at that point in time, the health services authorities, that the number of active cases for the 10th of March was down to 558. They also point out that positive cases reported to public health during this period were at that time for the 9th of March 21, the 10th of March 18, and 524 estimated active cases of COVID-19 in the Cayman Islands. 6 patients currently hospitalized for COVID-related causes, and of those 4 were unvaccinated. And then the 7-day rolling average for the 11th of March is 28. Sister Islands also noted 6 new cases since last reported, bringing the total cases since the beginning of the pandemic to 615 in the Sister Islands as well. So, folks, we continue to do extremely, extremely well. But like we've said before, that does not mean that we should let our guards down. We have to continue to ensure that we follow all of the health and safety protocols that are in place. And even if they're no longer required by the government, if it makes you feel more comfortable, let's say wearing a mask where masks are not required to be worn, do so. If you feel that it makes you that much safer, we encourage you to do so as well. Folks, we've reached that time where we're going to take a commercial break. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back after the short commercial break.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. The Cayman Islands, He hath founded it upon the seas.
In 1904, Cayman Brac turtling captain and boat builder Daniel Jervis built a prototype Caymanian catboat named Terra, an obvious improvement on the previous canoe-style boats of the day. The Caymanian catboat was on average 16 feet long and drew no more than 8 inches of water. Painted in their distinctive catboat blue color, it provided effective camouflage when seen from below, permitting the crew to discreetly approach turtles.
Radio Cayman's Historical Vignettes was brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects.
Hello, boys and girls. I'm Zara. If you are students in Cayman between 3 and 16 years old and love reading books like I do, welcome to the first Rotary Central Video Book Reports competition. Record your short video, no more than 90 seconds, on why you love your favorite book, what made you excited, or what made you laugh. There are lots of fabulous prizes. Too many to talk about now. For further information and sign up, go to Rotary Central Cayman Islands Facebook page or email david.rotarycentral@gmail.com. Record your book report video and send it by March 31st. So easy, so fun. The Rotary Central Cayman Islands Video Book Reports Competition. Rotary serves to change lives.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay. Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice-cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, Cayman.
Thinking of getting a hybrid but don't know much about them? Vamp Motors has 3 great reasons why you should own the Toyota CHR. Hybrid save fuel, run cleaner, reduce CO2 emissions, and even recharge their batteries while being driven. So there's no need to plug in your hybrid, making it both economical and fun to drive. And you don't have to replace your battery every 2 years. The CHR Hybrid is reliable, providing up to 1 million kilometers on the same battery and engine. Oh, and now you can save $2,000 off the Toyota CHR, starting at only $33,500.
That's way more than 3 reasons.
True, but the best one is that it's on sale now. Test drive the Toyota CHR today at Vamp Motors, Walkers Road, while stocks last.
Make your house into a home. Welcome to Brand Source Home Gallery, your source for premium products and a premium experience. We'll design and install your dream kitchen with crafted cabinets, complemented with elegant appliances. We'll fill it with quality houseware and cookware. Custom-designed closet and storage solutions organize and beautify any area. And with the finest bedding, you'll get a perfect night's sleep knowing Brand Source Home Gallery has everything you need to make your house a home.
JN Money, money touchdown. Send the money now, reach wow. You say you need some money, JN Money, I can send it in a hurry. Get through quick when you come collect your cash, or use a money card and swipe it in a flash. Send funds to any bank, yeah. Pay your bills quick, yeah. Low fees, you know what it, yeah. JN Money, we are pick, yeah. Send and receive funds at any JN Money location. It's fast, affordable, and convenient. Money touchdown with JN Money. Send funds to any bank, yeah. Pay your bills quick, yeah. Low fees, you know what it, yeah. JN Money, we are pick, yeah.
Call 345-945-2014 for details. Available at JN Money locations across the Cayman Islands.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. No guests in the studio yet. We will have guests in the studio after the 8 o'clock news. Meanwhile, I want to share with you, and in the absence of any legal person in the studio with me, normally Dr. Steve Macfield would be here, but this morning, because we have guests scheduled, and we have two groups of guests coming into the studio as well. So I'm going to share with you what is on the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council's website. So if you go on there, like I said, I've told you before, if you Google jcpc.uk, and then you go on to section where it's cases and talks about cases, decided cases. When you click on there, then you find the particular case that you want. Then there is also a section that talks about a press summary, and the Privy Council today did post a press summary of the day case. So I'm going to try to give that to you in 9 minutes before we go to our 8 o'clock news. So case is Chantal Day and another appellants versus the governor of the Cayman Islands and another respondent, the Cayman Islands. The justices, Lord Reed, Lord Hodge, Lady Arden, Lord Salas, Dame Victoria Sharp. The background of the appeal concerns whether the Cayman Islands Constitution confers a constitutional right to legal recognition of same-sex marriage. The appellants are in a committed relationship and wish to enter into a same-sex marriage recognized in law in the Cayman Islands. When they applied for the appropriate license at the Cayman Islands General Registry in April 2018, they were refused the license on the grounds that the marriage law in the Cayman Islands defines marriage as a union between a man and a woman as husband and wife. The appellants commenced judicial review proceedings and filed a constitutional petition claiming that 1. The Bill of Rights, Freedoms and Responsibilities within the Constitution conferred on them a constitutional right to legal recognition of same-sex marriage. And 2. That the marriage law infringed their right under the Bill of Rights. And 3. That therefore the marriage law should be read in such a way as to give effect to their constitutional rights to legal recognition of same-sex marriages. The Bill of Rights is modeled on the scheme and the provisions of the European Convention on Human Rights. The section of the Bill of Rights which the appellants contend protect their rights to marriage are Section 9, Private and Family Life, Section 10, Conscience and Religion, Section 14, Marriage, and Section 16, Non-Discrimination. Section 14 states that the government shall respect the right of every unmarried man and woman to marriageable age freely to marry a person of the opposite sex. The appellant's claim were successful at first instance in the Grand Court. However, the Court of Appeals allowed the appeal by the government of the Cayman Islands. The Court of Appeal held that the Bill of Rights did not confer a right on same-sex couples to marry and have their marriage recognized in law. The appellants appealed to the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council. So, the judgment. The board dismisses the appeal. Lord Salas gives the judgment of the board. It reads, in the context of the Bill of Rights, Section 14 of the right, which specifically deals with marriage in technical legal terminology, the lex specialis, which governs that topic, and that right is confined to opposite-sex couples. The other sections of the Bill of Rights have to be interpreted in light of Section 14.1, meaning that none of them can be construed as including a right for a same-sex couple to marry. The Bill of Rights is a special legal instrument which must be interpreted in its particular context and as a coherent, internally consistent whole. The right to marry in Section 14.1 has been drafted specifically to make it clear that it applies only to opposite-sex marriage. Within the scheme of the Bill of Rights, Section 14.1, as the lex specialis, defines who has a constitutional right to marriage, and therefore other general provisions in Section 9, 10, and 16 cannot be interpreted to circumvent the express limit on the right to marry in Section 14.1. To do so would be to undermine the coherence of the Bill of Rights. The board's interpretation is supported by case law regarding the interpretation of the European Convention on Human Rights. In various cases, the European Court of Human Rights has found that Article 12 of the law on marriage was determinative of the scope of the right to marry and was limited to the traditional concept of marriage as being between a man and a woman. The other more general provisions in the ECHR are equivalent to those in the Bill of Rights, therefore had to be interpreted in light of that and accordingly could not be read so as to extend to provide a right to same-sex marriages. So they're using, again, precedents set by the ECHR in that regard. The board points out that the interpretation given to the Bill of Rights in the judgment does not prevent the Cayman Islands Legislative Assembly from introducing legislation to recognize same-sex marriage. The effect of the board's interpretation is that this is a matter of choice for the Legislative Assembly rather than a right laid down in the Constitution. So that covers that, and my comments on that, you would have heard Dr. Steve McPhail and I on Friday talking about the same thing, and when we spoke about the constitutional negotiations, and in particular the Bill of Rights, we mentioned the fact that the UK went to great pains to try to craft the legislation along with our representatives here in the Cayman Islands government, as well as the opposition, as well as civic organizations like the Human Rights Committee, because it was a committee at that time. It wasn't a commission because we didn't have a constitution yet, to craft something that was as airtight as possible, despite the fact that I was of the belief, and I am of the belief, that if the United Kingdom had its way, it would have allowed same-sex marriages in our constitution. But they worked with the local authorities because they wanted to come up with a constitution that was agreeable to everyone, and they had to be give and take on both sides as well. So I think those of you who now support the ruling that was made by the Privy Council, I think you need to give recognition also to all of those who were involved in the negotiations, because at the end of the day, they came up with an airtight Bill of Rights that continue to protect the concept of marriage being between a man and a woman. One man and one woman. A man and a woman. So that has been reinforced not only here in the Cayman Islands, but also similarly in Bermuda. Folks, top of the hour, the 8 o'clock news. Please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back immediately after the 8 o'clock news.
March in Cayman is hot, but at Foster's, it's frozen.
Frozen Food Month is back, and you could win one of 5 $250 Foster's cards. To enter, just purchase any 5 products from the frozen department from now until March 31st.
You could grab frozen pizzas for dinner, frozen berries for your morning smoothies, or frozen plant-based sausages for something different.
Exactly! Just purchase any 5 frozen products and enter online at fosters.ky/Frozen Food Month.
Foster's, better because we care.
The voice of the Cayman Islands.
89.9 FM in Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Silver wings shining in the sunlight.
Radio Cayman.
The 8 a.m. news is brought to you by ValueMed Pharmacy. Save time and order your prescription refills online at value-medpharmacy.com. VALU-medpharmacy.com.
For today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
With your latest news, I'm Karsley Fuller. The Privy Council will ask the Queen to dismiss an appeal brought by a same-sex couple from Cayman, handing down its judgment from the February 2021 hearing this morning. The case relates to Caymanian Chantel Day and her partner being denied a marriage license back in 2018, as local legislation defines marriage as the union between a man and a woman. They took the matter to court. In 2019, the Chief Justice ruled in favor of the couple, ruling that preventing same-sex marriage was incompatible with Cayman's Bill of Rights, which guarantees the right to private life and family life. Later that year, Cayman's Court of Appeals overturned his decision, prompting the couple to take the case to the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council in the United Kingdom. In its ruling handed down this morning, the Privy Council says the interpretation of Cayman's Constitution and Bill of Rights as a self-contained legal instrument drafted in terms specifically chosen as appropriate for the Cayman Islands are, quote, sufficient to determine the case in the government's favor and to dismiss the appeal. However, the board added that this judgment, quote, does not prevent the Legislative Assembly, now Parliament, from introducing legislation to recognize same-sex marriage. Local LGBTQIA+ group Colors Caribbean describes the decision as a, quote, affront to human dignity, consecrating the segregation of the community. Founder Billy Bryan says the Privy Council has told LGBTQ+ people that they have no right to be treated equally, adding that the Constitution permits them to be segregated on the basis of their sexual orientation and that religious views are to be elevated over and above the values of human dignity, equality, mutual respect, and social harmony. Ms. Bryan says the outcome was not a surprise, adding that the decision will, quote, go down in LGBTQIA+ history. In other news, it's Commonwealth Day, and as part of local observations, a special service and parade was held on Sunday at St. George's Anglican Church. Today, Cayman is raising the Commonwealth flag, the youth parliamentarians will hold a debate, and the governor will host a reception at Government House. With regards to Youth Parliament, it kicks off today at 10:30 this morning with 24 local students from high schools and tertiary institutions participating. They're debating 2 topics, criminalizing sexual harassment and the challenges the present-day real estate market poses to land and home ownership for locals. The event, once again funded by local law firm Harney's, provides an opportunity for young people to express their views and learn about how Parliament works and functions. The proceedings are being televised live on government's YouTube and Facebook channels. Now with a check of international news, here's the BBC, which will take us out of the newscast. I'm Karsley Fuller from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
BBC News with Eileen McHugh. Russia's bombardment of Ukrainian cities continues. It's reported to have killed at least 5 people in residential areas, one of them in a block of flats in Kiev, which caught fire during shelling. Ukraine says its forces are holding their defensive positions and striking back at the rear areas of the Russian army to disrupt its supply lines. Meanwhile, the 4th round of talks between Russia and Ukraine is underway. Kiev's lead negotiator has called the negotiations hard. The Ukrainians are pressing for a ceasefire and the immediate withdrawal of Russian troops. Both sides have recently stated that draft agreements could be reached, though it's not clear what these might cover. Poland has qualified Sunday's Russian missile attack on a Ukrainian military base near its border as an attempt to threaten NATO. The Prime Minister said the assault was an attempt to create panic among civilians. Ukraine's Foreign Minister has again urged the West to supply more weapons and apply further sanctions on Moscow. Top officials from the US and China are meeting in Rome to discuss the conflict in Ukraine. The White House National Security Advisor is expected to stress to China's top diplomat that Beijing will face economic penalties if it aids its Russian ally. China denies reports that Russia has asked it for military equipment. Russia has announced several measures to soften the impact of Western sanctions on its economy. A new law will allow foreign planes leased by Russian airlines to be registered as their property. State subsidies will be increased for hospitals to buy medical goods whose price has risen. And coronavirus restrictions are in force in 2 major Chinese cities as infections surge to record levels. People in the tech hub of Shenzhen have to stay at home. In Shanghai, some neighbourhoods have been sealed off. BBC News.
The 8 a.m. news is brought to you by ValueMed Pharmacy. Save time and order your prescription refills online at value-medpharmacy.com. VALU-medpharmacy.com. Did you know that ValueMed Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with ValueMed. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location. ValueMed on Walkers Road or Town. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
You can now book and pay online for your certified lateral flow test at www.hsa.ky/appointment. It's fast, easy, and convenient. Certified LFTs are $25 per test per person. HSA's testing center is located at 131 Center, McClendon Drive, behind Foster's Airport. Walk-ins for certified LFTs are also available. Need a PCR test for travel? These are now only $75. Visit hsa.ky/appointment for more information.
Attention Caymanian job seekers. Do you want to know what jobs are available right now in the Cayman Islands? See all available jobs listed by occupation in the Jobs Cayman job directory printed in this week's local newspapers. Pick up the newspaper to see all available jobs listed by occupation. Then go to www.work.ky. That's WORC.ky to register and apply online.
They really made a mark. Vroom, vroom.
No, I can't get this out, you know.
You mean them tire marks?
Yeah, boy.
That John Reno revving up his bike up in here, you know.
And we gotta get it out too, you know, because more honorees coming on next week.
I can't wait to hear more inspiring stories.
You'll join us this Wednesday from 4 to 5 p.m. on Radio Cayman, 89.9 FM, for YouthFlex, the program for all people, by young people. YouthFlex, more talk.
The 8:12 a.m. weather report brought to you by CG Britcay, where people come first.
Good morning, everyone. Hello? Hello? Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Okay, I see we have just about everyone, and of course Tom drops off, you know, as per usual. Let's just wait a minute here. He always comes right back, and we're almost ready, and... oh, whoever's dog that is, please go on mute. Why won't it let me share my screen? Okay, looks like we're ready to start.
We're like a video conference with no technical issues. CG Britcay. Good like that.
The 8:12 a.m. weather report brought to you by CG Britcay, where people come first.
Good morning, everyone. Hello? Hello? Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Okay, I see we have just about everyone, and of course, Tom drops off, as per usual. Let's just wait a minute here. He always comes right back, and we're almost ready, and... oh, whoever's dog that is, please go on mute. Why won't it let me share my screen? Okay, looks like we're ready to start.
We're like a video conference with no technical issues. CG Britcay. Good like that.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
All right, good morning, my friends. Let's take a look at the traffic movements coming out of the eastern districts. Looking at the east-west arterial, traffic is moving good. A little bit of traffic coming out of the Prospect area. And getting to the Red Bay roundabout, traffic will be flowing smoothly as that third lane, new lane, has been paved to the extreme left. But remember, getting closer to the Century 21 roundabout, that's outside Hurley's, there are cones lined in the road that will take you, if you stay in that lane, it will take you to South Sound. You won't be able to change once you get into the areas of the cones. So if you're continuing on to the Linford Pearson Highway, I remind you to stay in the middle or the far right lane to continue your way onto the Linford Pearson Highway. Looking down at Shamrock Road, busy there as well. And looking down from the King Sports Center, traffic already creeping along the Linford Pearson Highway, similar with Crew Road. Turning on to Agnes Way, expect some traffic there as well as you turn on to Crew Road. Those continuing on to Bobby Thompson Way. Of course, roadworks will be starting soon to widen the Linford Pearson Highway leading to Bobby Thompson Way. Streets in Georgetown looking busy as well. Looking down at the Butterfield roundabout, we got some traffic coming off the Esley Tibbetts Highway as you make your way into Georgetown from the West Bay areas. At roundabout, of course, always busy. A little bit of eastward bound, westward bound traffic as you head towards Dorsey Drive if you're going towards CUC. Traffic coming out of that way as well. Godfrey Nixon Way looking good with some pedestrian movements as well. Eastern Avenue also looking good with some traffic heading towards Shedden Road. And of course, the traffic will continue, but of course will dissipate as the morning progresses. Look out for people crossing the streets on bicycles, scooters, motorbikes. And stay safe, my friends. Buckle up. The traffic report brought to you by our good friends at Subway.
Subway is serving up a special new sauce, bursting with flavor in every bite. The new Savory Collection is a tropical sweet and spicy sauce made with a combination of spices, habanero peppers, thyme, onion, black pepper, ginger, citrus juices, and molasses.
So good.
Wow.
Sensational.
Delicious. Subway's Savory Collection pairs perfectly with our oven roasted chicken or steak sub. Savor the flavor. For a limited time, only at Subway. Subway. Eat fresh.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
New to Cayman, the Cayman Documentary Festival. Real world problems, real world solutions. 5 documentaries, 5 discussion panels, March 16th to the 20th at the Camana Bay Cinema. Documentaries include domestic abuse, environmental protection, mental health awareness, technology and finance, and music and heritage. Tickets available at fanango.com for $25. Funds benefiting Plastic Free Cayman, Crisis Center Cayman, Alex Panton Foundation, NCVO, and Cayman Arts Festival. The Cayman Documentary Festival. Real world problems, real world solutions. March 16th to the 20th at the Camana Bay Cinema.
It's in our name. Fried chicken, it's our thing. Others may try, but we have the original. We put the extra and extra crispy. And our secret in everyone's mouth. So if we want to make the best chicken sandwich, we just need to put our name on it. New Kentucky Chicken Sandwich. An abundant triple breaded filet, premium mayo and pickles, all in a buttered brioche bun. The best chicken sandwich had to be KFC.
For the Record with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the Record with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. I now have company in the studio with me. I'm not all by myself, so I don't have to do all of the talking now. We're going to be talking about tsunami preparedness in the Cayman Islands, and we will be speaking with representatives from Hazard Management Cayman. I call it that. That's the old terminology that I'm using. So I'm going to ask our guests to introduce themselves. Neither of them are strangers to Radio Cayman and For the Record, but we're going to ask our guests to introduce themselves.
Good morning, Mr. Connor, and
Good
for
morning.
the audience listening. Thank you very much for having us here. My name is Adan, and I am the Operations Officer for Hazard Management.
Okay.
Simon Boxall, thanks again, Zita, having us on, and good morning, everybody. I hope you had a good weekend. Simon Boxall, Hazard Management, the Communications, Public Awareness and Training Officer.
Okay. Tell us what's happening in Hazard Management now.
Well, we had a really busy week. We had a tsunami exercise on the 10th of March, which was a regional one, actually, sort of organized by UNESCO. So most countries in the Caribbean Basin, the Caribbean Sea, and also the U.S., Florida, took part in this exercise. It's an annual thing. And we also had the launch of our Phase 2 of the National Emergency Notification System. So that was kind of a big thing for us. We worked hard to get to that point, especially our mitigation specialist, Mr. Mark Codling. So we really appreciate the hard work he's put in, and that went off as well. The first time we actually tested it was on the day of the exercise.
Yeah.
Okay. You wanted to say something there?
No. It was from my perspective, I was the individual that got the information out to the public. It was a smooth transition, getting that information and relaying that back to the individuals that were registered in the app.
Okay.
So Dan was the duty officer. We have an assigned person, so we have 24-hour coverage, obviously every day of the year. So it was Dan's turn, and then so when we had to trigger the alert to the public, it's one of the key functions of the duty officer is to get the information out in a public safety threat. He was there to do that. So well done, Dan. You did a great job.
Oh, thanks.
Now, the whole concept of tsunami and our awareness here in the Cayman Islands, can we talk a little bit about that and when we actually became more and more aware of the threat of tsunamis, after an earthquake? Because there were times when we really didn't give it a whole lot of consideration. But we do have a tsunami plan now, and I'd like you to talk about that, in the introduction of that and where that is at. But let's talk about, our awareness of tsunamis.
Thank you, Asif, for that question. So we, as Hazard Management, was established in 2007. I think you probably had a role in that, founding it as well. So we then embarked on a period of plan development and looking at the biggest threats first. So that would be hurricane, obviously. That's our primary threat from a natural hazards perspective. So once we created volume 1 of the plan, the overall plan is called the National Hazard Management Plan, and in that there are various hazard-specific plans. So volume 1 looks at the structure of the National Emergency Operations Center. How does that function? So we have the preparedness aspect, get people ready, make sure they're informed. The mitigation component, try to reduce the risks and the threats, put in things like shelters, recommendations for things like the development plan and so on. Then we have the impact, and then after that we roll out the response. And then I think you are the recovery coordinator for Hurricane Ivan, so you know about the recovery phase. So once we worked through the hurricane plan, one of the next plans we were looking at, because even though we've never had a historical confirmation of a damaging event, that earthquake in Indonesia on Christmas Day 2000 was shocking, yes, with hundreds of thousands of people losing their lives.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So we were aware of the history of events in the Caribbean Sea. There was an earthquake off Portugal a couple of centuries back that actually created a wave that crossed the entire Atlantic Ocean, came into the Caribbean region, and affected some of the islands. There was one in 1946 that impacted Dominican Republic. So we started to work on the tsunami plan,
mm-hmm,
and eventually we managed to get it written, and so it's just part of the overall National Hazard Management Plan. That was kind of a long answer. There's still work to do in terms of risk analysis for tsunamis, because some people may be aware of these giant boulders on the iron shore of places like Pedro, and they, multi-ton, 10-ton boulders, which have somehow been driven, hundreds of meters into, or 300-400 feet into the inland,
mm-hmm,
and they've been radiocarbon dated to around 1550, but we don't know exactly what put them there, whether it was a huge hurricane or possibly a tsunami wave. So the jury's out. A lot of people say, well, you don't have the shallow shelf area, extended shelf, that allows the actual run-up to occur, because the wavelength is very long for a tsunami wave. So maybe 30, 40, 50 miles. So in the deep sea, it really doesn't register. It's only an inch or two, but once it reaches the shallows, because it's from the top of the surface of the water down to the bottom, the whole body of water is moving.
mm-hmm.
It needs shallow water for you to get the rise of the wave. So some people say, well, maybe you don't have a long enough shelf to generate the tsunami run-up. But then we're aware, obviously North Sound is a 10 by 10 mile shallow bay. There's about a mile of shelf past that, and it seems likely that could create an environment conducive to a wave, so we can't rule it out until we have definitive evidence, and we're working towards that. A big development last year was the underwater bathymetry, the mapping of the undersea environment, because that has a huge role in what happens with waves. So, for instance, off Little Pedro Point, the Savannah Gully area breaches the coast in some hurricanes. And the reason why that's occurring is because it's really quite deep there, close to shore, and that allows a very big wave to come.
Okay. So one of the things that we can take away as far as our tsunami plan is concerned is that it's reviewed on an annual basis and updates whenever it is required, as well. What takeaways can we get from the recent tsunami exercise for, I think it was mainly the Caribbean?
Yes.
And that was organized by UNESCO?
Correct.
Okay.
So there were, I don't know if Dan, you want to jump in, but there were two different scenarios.
Okay.
You can go ahead. Yeah.
There was a scenario looking at an event off Dominican Republic, and then another one off Panama. These were historical events that occurred, but they were changed slightly for the purpose of the exercise. And we selected the Panama one, and the models were run, and we were expecting between a 1 to 3 foot wave. Given the distance away from Panama, we were looking about a 2.25 hour period of time before the arrival of the wave. Well, it's a series of waves. So the notification came in of an 8.3 magnitude earthquake. And maybe I'll let Dan take it from there about what happened next.
All right. So initially, it was planned for 9:06, And like what I said, the transition from getting that information onto our new system, our phase 2 system, which is the notification and emergency systems. It was just, like I said, it was smooth transition over, but a lot of the audience, a lot of the people out there have to realize that when we get that information, we do have to take it and then put it in and disseminate it. So luckily, we just launched the NENS app. We took the opportunity to get it out there. And for the listening audience there, what it's mainly supposed to do is it gives us the opportunity to get the critical information out to the public as quickly as possible. Because we know, obviously, with the growing frequencies of man-made and natural hazards, we found it vital to get this step out as quickly as possible, especially before the hurricane season. So we were lucky that this exercise was coming in. So, we just jumped on it and said, hey, let's take this opportunity to get that, to test our system same time. So just to give the audience a little history on the NENS. So we embarked in this project back in 2018. It was along with the Department of Public Safety Communication, and the first step, which is phase 1, was the radio interrupt. So a lot of individuals will hear that our little exercise, our little test being done in the middle of the night, but it's just to make sure that all the systems are working. And the radio interrupt is basically interrupting all the radio broadcasters to get that information out. So like what Simon said, we launched on the 7th of March, and exercise was held on the 10th. And yeah, that's pretty much it with regards to exercise and our app.
So yes, that was correct. Sorry, Dan. Yeah, we did launch on the 7th. We tested on the 10th for the first time, the official test. And the exercise was a useful opportunity because I think it makes people think. Sometimes it's these events that happen that trigger people to actually take action.
Yes. Yeah.
So after that huge earthquake in 2020, then we saw lots of people interested in us coming along, giving our hazard awareness presentations and so on. But sometimes people wait to the last minute, and if you don't have something that kind of helps raise the profile possibly. So we were actually really quite pleased with the amount of people. How many are we looking at now?
So when we did the initial exercise, we had approximately 1,646. That is 1,646 people registered in the app. And the app registered that it gave all information to all the individuals. So everyone received it. With the response, like we said, we could only encourage people to prepare, because it's not that, if it's going to happen, it's more of when is it going to happen. And like I said, given the frequencies of the hazards, it's best to, just be prepared. Have a small little stash somewhere, and you might never use it, but
it's there if you need it.
It's there if you do need it.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, we're going to take a commercial break. When we return, we'll talk more about tsunami preparedness in the Cayman Islands with Dan and Simon. So when we return, also, we want to talk about the other systems that we have in place in relation to tsunami warnings for the Cayman Islands as well. Update our listening audience as to, those other warning systems that we have. We just mentioned the new app that was launched on the 7th, and the exercise that took place on the 10th, all coordinated so that you could basically see exactly what sort of results. And 16,000, that's
No, I'm sorry, 1,600.
1,600, sorry.
1,600. But to date, right now, we do have total registers of 2,340. That's 2,340 individuals.
Excellent.
And it's going really good.
Okay, we're going to take a commercial break. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
Since March 2004, West Bay Pharmacy has kept their doors open to the local communities, even before, during, and after Hurricane Ivan. At West Bay Pharmacy, our staff provides so much more than pharmaceutical excellence. From the moment you walk through our doors to completing your cash out, our staff will have put your healthcare concerns at ease. We would like to take this moment to thank our loyal friends and customers. To us at West Bay Pharmacy, our patients are our primary concern. We provide thorough background checks and precise calculations to ensure your medical safety. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing West Bay Pharmacy. where we care about your health.
Make your house into a home. Welcome to Brand Source Home Gallery, your source for premium products and a premium experience. We'll design and install your dream kitchen with crafted cabinets, complemented with elegant appliances. We'll fill it with quality houseware and cookware. Custom-designed closet and storage solutions organize and beautify any area. And with the finest bedding, you'll get a perfect night's sleep knowing Brand Source Home Gallery has everything you need to make your house a home.
Tune in every Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. for Radio Cayman's Midday Newscast. Radio Cayman, the People's Station, your trusted official source for the latest news. The 12 p.m. news is proudly brought to you by Health City Cayman Islands. World-class healthcare within your reach.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Mr. Simon Boxall, and also with us, Dan from the Hazard Management Cayman. One of our listeners has posed a question and says, in regards to the NENS app, is there a reason why it is not an iOS app for obvious security? How does HMCI ensure the security of the app?
All right, so in security of the data or of getting that notification out to individuals.
You wouldn't know, Mr. OC.
Yeah. I'm sure that the person is listening, so
I'll elaborate.
Okay.
So iOS, which is an Apple operating system, they're really strict when it comes to overriding the Ring alert on the phone. So what we're trying to do, we're working BlackBerry, so we're under BlackBerry, so what they're working with is Apple to try to get that permission, allowing us to get that to override. So that's why we're working on it right now. But when it comes to the app, it's on both platforms. It's on the Android platform and the iOS platform. We encourage you to register to get that notification via the app, but there is three ways in actually getting that notification. We do have the app, the email, and the SMS. So if the app doesn't go off, you'll get an email. If the email doesn't go off, you'll still get a text. Or you'll be lucky and get all three one time.
Okay.
So just to add to that question, because I think it's an interesting one, and people have actually said, it seems to be quite a little bit more difficult to get this app than some of the other ones that you see. And one of the reasons is a very secure platform.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember back in the day, those BlackBerry phones a lot of people had, right?
Yes.
They stopped selling the phones, and they're not really in the phone business now, but they're kind of a government secure communications platform, and so 75% of all the U.S. federal government employees, their critical event notifications come out on this same BlackBerry ad hoc. Many kind of government agencies, and it's a secure channel. So we asked for an additional layer. The email, which some people are saying, well, why do you need my email? It's just that's the architecture of the BlackBerry system.
Okay.
The data is actually stored in the UK. There's very strict data protection laws, and we respect people's, data, and we won't use it for any purpose. No marketing, none of that. It's strictly to do significant alerts, critical alerts. So we're not going to be blasting you with any kind of. And we always get the questions: why don't you just use SMS? There's some problems with congestion on the network, so sometimes that's a delayed mechanism. So we can't totally depend on that, because sometimes we need to get the messages out really quickly. So it's an approach where we try to hit as many different areas as possible to communicate to people, recognizing that everybody's consuming information differently, and we'll always still rely on the media a lot as a key partner to get the information out to the people. Obviously, we have social media channels like Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and Instagram, our website, and even in during the COVID pandemic, some people might even remember we had these trucks rolling around with PA systems on them. Lennox Vernon, our operations and logistics, was in charge of putting that together. So whatever it takes, and yeah.
Okay. So can we talk about some of the other tools that you have at your disposal? Let's say, for instance, the ocean warning systems that are in place. I know we on previous shows we've spoken about those as well.
Right. So yes, there is a network of. Do you? Should I talk about the network, or do you want?
No, you can go ahead.
So there's a network of tsunami sea level monitoring gauges, which if there's a unusual rise or fall in the sea level, triggers an alert to a satellite, and that's a network throughout the Caribbean Sea. So that would give us a warning possibly if something's happening, and we can get quite a good sense of exactly how big the wave is based on what's happened in one of the other networks. Obviously, if R1 is triggered and it's in Georgetown Harbor, that means that we've been impacted, so we would then provide possibly a source of warning for some other island in the Caribbean Sea. But there's also a network of DART buoys that NOAA has put in, and unfortunately the one that was closest to us was ripped out in a hurricane and washed up on a beach in Texas. I'm not sure that it's back yet. But increasingly we're becoming more dependent or more interested in these kind of technological warning systems. We're looking now at putting in flood sensors too in the land, so we're doing a pilot test on that. I don't know if you want to talk to that at this point, Adam, but it's in its infancy.
It's like we said, like Simon said, we're right now gathering all that information. We do identify that there is need for getting that equipment there. Obviously, Cayman is really low when it comes to the sea level. So like we said, we're in the preliminary phase. We're hopefully, after the success of this app, we could branch off and work on that.
So there's one of these systems in place in Houston, I think. So there's a network of 50 sensors. So it's would be eventually, if it works, be quite useful for people driving to be aware if there's water in the road by Savannah Gully, or some people after heavy rainstorm events driving through water, it can be a bit more hazardous. So it can give us a better sense of public safety and help us with our messaging. So all these things are sort of helping us to take a more robust approach to hazards and risk and understand the threats better and so on.
So we see what plans that hazard management has rolled out in this regard. One of our listeners was curious to know the extent of the involvement as far as hazard management is concerned in terms of a development plan for the Cayman Islands. There are those who call for a proper development plan, because we still see construction going on. We believe it appears as if they're ignoring some of the issues that we have faced already and will probably face again, the potential issues as well. And how frustrating that is, and you may not want to answer that as a civil servant, but how frustrating it is when here you have an agency that's working really hard to keep people aware, keep them informed about situations. But at the same time, some of those same individuals are going out there and recklessly building and developing in areas that are vulnerable and make them susceptible to all of these natural disasters that could take place.
It's a great question. I think it's reasonable for me to say that this government has obviously started we're inside the Ministry of sustainability and climate resiliency. So there's been a greater focus on this issue. I think a lot of our young people in particular are very concerned about their future, the future of Cayman. And you're seeing reports issued through NOAA, but by many very well-respected government agencies in the U.S. saying we're looking at a rise of a foot within 30 years by 2050. Water's incredibly heavy, and it can cause enormous damage in waves, as we know. So, again, going back to our mitigation efforts, very key to it was that underwater bathymetry, and NOAA's actually offered to run these models which will look at the impacts of things like storm surge, hurricane-driven waves we'll get a better sense of. And so eventually, as a management, we can't inform the planning and development process if we don't have the baseline data or the scientific knowledge and understanding. And some people might think, well, that's a bit of a kind of an excuse maybe, but I mean, it really is how it is. Until we're coming from a position of being informed, knowledgeable, and scientific, I don't think that we're really able to. Our eventual goal is to identify areas, map them of risk and vulnerability, and be part of the development and planning process. People don't like uncertainty, we understand, in development, and it may act as a hindrance to a degree, so it's for the policymakers to decide how hazard management will take part. But it's already on the table, it's in active discussion, and it hasn't really progressed yet, like I said, because we've still got work to do to do better risk analysis.
Okay, anything you want to add? Adam?
He mentioned all the points.
Okay, Paul, we're going to take a commercial break. When we return, we still have 15 minutes left with our guests, and we have another panel that will be joining us after 9 o'clock as well. Folks, please stay tuned. For the Record, we'll be back shortly.
Thinking of getting a hybrid but don't know much about them? Vamp Motors has 3 great reasons why you should own the Toyota CHR. Hybrid save fuel, run cleaner, reduce CO2 emissions, and even recharge their batteries while being driven. So there's no need to plug in a hybrid, making it both economical and fun to drive. And you don't have to replace your battery every 2 years. The CHR Hybrid is reliable, providing up to 1 million kilometers on the same battery and engine. Oh, and now you can save $2,000 off the Toyota CHR, starting at only $33,500.
That's way more than 3 reasons.
True, but the best one is that it's on sale now. Test drive the Toyota CHR today at Vamp Motors, Walkers Road, while stocks last.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay.
No one can stop me when I taste the feel.
Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice-cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, Cayman.
JN Money, money touchdown. Send the money now, reach wow. You say you need some money, JN Money, I can send it in a hurry. Get through quick when you come collect your cash, or use a money card and swipe it in a flash. Send funds to any bank, yeah. Pay your bills quick, yeah. Low fees, you know what it, yeah. JN Money, we are pick, yeah. Send and receive funds at any JN Money location. It's fast, affordable, and convenient. Money touchdown with JN Money. Send funds to any bank, yeah. Pay your bills quick, yeah. Low fees, you know what it, yeah. JN Money, we are pick, yeah.
Call 345-945-2014 for details. Available at JN Money locations across the Cayman Islands.
Mommy, Daddy, Anna, Uncle, please go get your COVID-19 booster shot and take care of yourself. You're the reason I got vaccinated.
You must practice social distancing and proper hand hygiene and never forget your mask. Help me, help you. Get your COVID-19 booster shot and take care of conditions that make you vulnerable. Get boosted. We're in this together.
Visit www.gov.ky/coronavirus to learn more.
For the Record with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the Record with Ort Connor. continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me from Hazard Management Cayman Islands, Adan and Simon. We have a question that someone has posed. I will read that, but before you answer it, we have a caller as well, and then we will take the caller. So this person wants to know, what do we do if there is a major tsunami that is heading our way? So bear that in mind, young man, and we're going to take the caller in the meantime. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning to you, Osi. How you doing, sir?
Good morning. I'm fine. Can hardly hear you, though.
Can you hear me now?
Much better. Much better.
All right, man. Good morning to you and good morning to your panel. I think you said Mr. Adan. And there's also Simon there.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, hi.
Morning.
Morning. Simon, I know you, so I'll probably kind of pose it to you. The app that you guys put out actually caused problem with my phone in that it went with a lot of static, and I had to uninstall it because people, when they call me, I couldn't hear them. Sorry, they couldn't hear me. I could hear them, but they couldn't hear me. And I would leave voice notes for people, and that's when I was getting replies saying, "Hey, I can't hear you. It's all static." So I'm not sure if anybody else had that problem, but it caused me to uninstall the app. And the only reason why I knew it was the app, and I thought it was actually a problem with the phone, and I didn't have any funds to buy a new phone, so I started troubleshooting. And on my phone, it mentioned 4 different things that could affect somebody being able to hear you, and it said the installation of a recent app, and I'd only just put that on the day before. So I'm not sure if you're getting that kind of problems. I currently don't have the app.
No, this is the first time I'm hearing of the static problem. But I wrote it down, and if you want, you could call the Hazard Management extension, and we'll try to get more information and try to sort that out for you.
I'll certainly try it again. I just haven't had the time to try it again. But that was one thing. The other thing, Simon, that kind of also triggered the call. I know Mr. O.C. asked you some questions there a while ago about how our system works, and I think you and I know you and I are connected on social media, and we've had a couple of events that had really shook us. Not the least that earthquake a couple of years ago, that we wondered whether we'd have a tsunami. But before that, we also had a very similar event, and that one happened to have taken place at night. And I know we had a lot of discussions determining what system we're going to go with, and we can't change that now because that's been voted on, done, and you're now implementing an app. But my concern has always been, because I recall that we learned that the way that our system works in terms of those CMC level warnings is that it comes from some place in Hawaii or someplace else, and it's done by email. And I don't know if that has changed and if you can speak to that, but the warning is sent by email. It's not as if somebody here gets a phone call, was my understanding. And so there would always have to be someone here who at 2 o'clock in the morning is monitoring whether an email coming in saying that we're having a sea level rise. And so I always maintain that that in the event that we have something late at night, or we're dealing with technology, in the event that technology going up, we've lost that system. And I wish to God that we'd put in a simple siren system. I was one of them that really wanted to see that. We can't change that, but has that whole entire process surrounding how we receive the information on our end, has that been improved or looked at in terms of your risk?
Thank you very much, caller. We'll have them answer that for you, Simon.
I think it's a great question. I'm going to let Adam talk to it a bit, but initially I'd like to just say yes, we're still using the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. The U.S. mainland U.S. islands go through USGS. They're both, part of the tsunami warning system. Hawaii is a very efficient and effective, but all the other islands in the Caribbean Sea, including all the British, Danish, French, everything, gets their information from the PTWC. So yes, we sat on one of the panels, and one of the recommendations that hazard management has put forward is that they put in a robocall system, because yes, the message is coming through by email. So we have put in, we have a mechanism in place though, because as the caller quite rightly pointed out, it does present a risk. Are we going to miss this message?
Yeah.
And so hazard management's actually looked at that. We have the duty officer system in place, but Adang, perhaps you could talk about DPSC and.
All right, yeah, we do have like what Simon said, we do have the duty officer in place, and that is 365 24/7. However, we're not always monitoring it. So we also lay heavily on DPSC, which is the Department of Public Safety Communication. So at nighttime, they'll be monitoring that email. They have access to all of our notification systems. So if that email comes in, they'll fire it, they'll notify us, and we'll get the NEOC stand up if it's needed, and we'll deal with it accordingly. But to answer the caller's answer, we've constantly been improving. We've been monitoring, we've been developing, and this is something that we identified as a little problem, as a risk. So this is the steps that we're actually taking in place. So we're always monitoring that email. Even in our office, we do have all the systems up and running on monitors, and whatever happens, we've got that information as quick. When we get it, we disseminate it as quick as possible.
That's a great question, though. So it's possible, though, at the current state, not all our communication systems are going to be triggered if it happens in the middle of the night or at night or on weekends. So Dan pointed out, yes, the steps will be taken to begin the process of activating the NEOC. They can trigger, though, the radio interrupt and the NENS Phase 2. That's kind of why we're so happy to have it. But in terms of issuing holding statements to the media and so on, there's still work to be done in that area. And we recognize the power of the media of getting information out, even in the middle of the night. So, yes, great question. And, while we are working on it, there's still more work to be done.
Okay, and then we still have that question for the person who says, what do they do if there's a major tsunami that we're alerted to that is heading our way?
All right, so I'll answer that question if you don't mind, Si.
Go for it.
All right, so if we do have a major tsunami alert, we're just going to go back to the earthquake. We'll speak about earthquake. What normally triggers a tsunami is a quick onset, the displacement of water. And so if you feel a really long earthquake, really strong, very long earthquake, that's a clear indicator that something might be happening, or that something is happening around us. If you don't know where it is, where the initial point of the displacement is, then automatically your first step would be, okay, well, hey, it's a strong and long earthquake. Let's get up. Let's go inland. Let's go higher. Let's go to structures that are really built strong. So that is the initial phase. That's the initial response of an individual that we encourage. However, on our side, on hazard management side, we're going to try to get that critical information as quickly as possible. But we're encouraging individuals, stay connected, but take the necessary preparation. Know the steps before it actually happens. And like I said, we're pushing our app, we're getting the information. We want people to rely on us, but at that same step, we're relying on individuals. We're hoping people see the risk, and as our preparedness and our mitigation improves, we want that flow of information. We want the audience to, okay, well, hey, you know what? Hazard management is doing this. Let's listen to them. Let's prepare. Let's know our surroundings.
So just to add, and Dan is absolutely right. If you're in a low-lying coastal area and stuff like that, then that's exactly the response. If it's long and strong, try to get to somewhere safe. And so if you're living in one of those types of environments, you should be thinking in advance, where are my options in the surroundings, because we're very low and flat in many cases. So the problem presents itself in that the earthquake can occur in very different places. We could have it in the
south side, the north side, the west side.
Or the Eastern Caribbean Sea, off Panama. So off the Bay Islands of Honduras, as we saw a little shake this weekend. So depending on where it is, will affect the travel time of the tsunami waves. And the time that they're going to reach our shoreline. So we might have ample notice and ample time to warn people. But the one that we really worry about very much is that long and strong event where you might have a submarine landslide or a slip or slide or slump in the nearby marine environment. And you don't really have time to warn people, so we just need people to kind of take action, be aware of what they should be doing, how they should be reacting and responding in the circumstances. So, as Adan said, long and strong get gone. And hopefully in the next year or so we can have a much better idea of risk analysis because, we have certain schools, for instance, in Cayman Brac. They're single-story buildings on the coast, pinned in by the bluff. What do? Do you start chipping away on the side of the bluff? And maybe you can have more injuries and casualties as people scramble to get up the side of this face. So, it presents some very difficult questions, difficult things to answer. And in many cases, after a very strong earthquake, if you're inland in a strong building, you're probably just better off staying in the building and maybe going up a floor. Unless there's clear signs of structural problems, cracks in the walls and the masonry, then obviously you get out because there's a potential for aftershocks.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay, we have about 3 minutes left before we're going to end this segment of the show. I want to give both of you an opportunity for some closing comments, starting with you, Adan. But and Simon, when we get to you, in response to the question that we received about the, if a major tsunami is approaching, or we're aware of one, what to be done, whether or not you would refer those persons also to familiarize themselves with the Cayman Islands National Hazard Management Plan, and maybe based on some of the information that you have provided with us to us now and our audience, that there may be some changes to that plan in terms of additional information that you're putting out there, like, for instance, the app that has been developed and stuff like that. But I am getting a sense that our listener didn't feel completely satisfied with the response that they received, and want to see if we can give them a little bit more assurance as well. Dan?
All right, in closing remarks, what I want to encourage and what from Hazard Management is trying to do is prepare individuals. And we keep saying prepare, but preparedness is key to anything. And one next topic is the NENS. If families out there, individuals haven't registered yet, please feel free to visit nens.gov.ky. It's 4 steps, easy steps. Just need
That's
your email.
NENS?
NENS.gov.ky. 4 steps and register. And like what Simon said, we're not going to bombard individuals with spam or notifications here and there. It's just for critical information, critical incidents, major incidents. So in essence, that's what I could say. It's be prepared.
Yep. Simon?
Thank you again. I really always appreciate coming on your show, and very insightful, and obviously you've had history and knowledge in disaster management. Getting back to that caller, sometimes some of the questions we receive are not easy, and we have to be honest. We have to be upfront and acknowledge at times that there's still work to be done, and we need to improve. And that's why we update our plans and procedures and policies and try to get better and have these exercises. And we're not done with the emergency notification system. We're going to continue to try to refine it, moving eventually towards cell broadcast, which will hit every single phone within range of a tower, even the cruise ship passengers.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we could probably work with the 911, Department of Public Safety Communications 911, to get a holding statement out to the media. We can't tie the hands of our partner agencies. It's a lot to ask them to get into the communications to the media, and we don't necessarily want to have them using our social media channels. But public safety is an important business. And when there's a threat coming barreling down at you, people want the information, and it's one thing setting up the National Emergency Notification System, but people want to know if there's a threat coming. So that's why the NENS is at least a development in the right direction.
Exactly.
But thank you, as
Okay,
always.
Thank you,
thank you all as well, and thanks for the work that you do and you continue to do to help to keep the people of the Cayman Islands safe. Folks, top of the hour, headline news. When we return, we will be talking about vaccination, so please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Follow Radio Cayman on Twitter. All the latest information, breaking news, community events, and more. Follow us at twitter.com/Radio Cayman.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
An appeal to the Privy Council in London related to same-sex marriage in Cayman goes in government's favor. The board says the interpretation of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are, quote, sufficient to determine the case in Cayman's government's favor and to dismiss the appeal. Cayman's laws define marriage as a union between a man and a woman. A local same-sex couple appealed to the Privy Council after they were denied a marriage license. Russian and Ukrainian representatives have resumed talks in a bid to end weeks of fighting. A spokesman for the Ukrainian president's office has hinted at progress, saying Ukraine is pushing for an immediate ceasefire, but Russia has continued its bombardment of many Ukrainian cities, with one person killed in a strike on a block in flats in the capital. Russia's missile attack on a military base near Poland on Sunday was an attempt to, quote, threaten NATO, according to Poland's deputy foreign minister. China says a claim by U.S. officials that Russia asked Beijing to provide it with military assistance in Ukraine is, quote, disinformation. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Let me tell you something. I've been fishing our island since I was a boy, and it's getting harder and harder to get a good catch. Maybe it's because there are so many more people in Cayman than ever before. Maybe it's because of how the climate is changing. I don't know about that, but I do know that I want to be able to keep fishing and teach my children to fish one day as well. So it makes sense to me that we have certain areas and certain times of the year to fish for certain things. This year, a new rule was placed on fishing for grouper that says no one can fish for nas or grouper anywhere in Cayman from December 1st to April 30th while they're spawning. There is also no fishing allowed at all for any kinds of fish in the spawning zones, and no scuba diving there either. It feels unfair not to be allowed to fish where my dad taught me to fish, but I know that being patient now means we can keep fishing for many more generations. We're all in this together, right?
For more info, download the Cayman DOE app or visit doe.ky.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. No stranger to the studio at Radio Cayman, Dr. Autelia Newton, who's the Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health and Wellness, the interim Chief Medical Officer. And she's here with us today. We're going to be talking about cruise ship passengers and vaccinated population. Quite an important topic that we will be talking about. We know that, is it the 21st of this month, next Monday, we will welcome our cruise passengers back to the Cayman Islands. Not an easy decision to be made, but it's much easier once we know where we stand as far as our population and is concerned as far as vaccination, but also what the cruise lines have put in place to ensure that their passengers are also vaccinated and that everyone is protected. So, Dr. Newton, good morning. Welcome back to For the Record.
Good morning to you and to all the people listening to this transmission.
Okay. So, if you may want to give us, if you have it, a sort of an update where we are in the Cayman Islands as far as our vaccinated population is concerned.
Yes, thank you very much for that. So, as you know, the Cayman Islands have achieved a very, very high vaccination coverage as far as the first and the second dose, so the full course, because as you know, the vaccine which has been used here is predominantly has been the Pfizer, which requires two doses. So very, very successful vaccination, which has played an incredible role in protecting the islands from severe disease and death. Then there has been when the evidence, international evidence came along, that there was a waning in the protection from the full course of vaccination. And we start talking about the booster. And also this was coming around the time when other variants were appearing with slightly different, with different profiles and so on. So the booster campaign so far it's not gone terribly wrong. That's not right, but hasn't reached the same level as the full course of vaccination. What we are looking at the moment is trying to get a bit more precise information on the coverage, because if you take the coverage, the booster is offered so far only to people between the age of 16 onwards, so it's not offered to the whole population. So if you take the number of doses given and you divide for the whole population, obviously your coverage, doesn't look very, very good. Because we're not, we including a group of population which is not covered at all. So this is what we are trying to do. We are trying to slightly recalculate, because if we look now at the whole population, the coverage is about 35%, which is not very far away from most of the best Caribbean countries. If we look at the other overseas territories, for example, Bermuda is at around 40%, which is not very far away from our 35, 36. So we are hoping to bring these figures out with the new CTREP this on Wednesday. Also, we are going to try to use the figures from the census, 2021, which, although they are not officially published, there is a bit of a more correct estimate of the residents in Cayman, which is a bit lower than the denominator, the one we were using now.
Okay, yes.
So we should see figures for the booster being closer to 40% rather than 35% like we see now. But I'll be a bit more precise on Wednesday when we have recalculated that. Also from preliminary calculation we have been doing, it looks like the group which we most wanted to be vaccinated, so the over 60, the vaccination coverage there looks better than the younger groups. And this is quite a positive thing. The last piece of information I would like to add as far as booster is concerned is that there have been a couple of sessions at supermarkets last week, which have been quite successful.
Great.
People were taking on the offer, and this is the point which is really important. Every time you're talking vaccination, you have to look at two things. Do people want the vaccine? But also, do you make it available? Do you make it easy for people to get vaccinated? And I think going to supermarket, things like that, it does make it, improves the access, and people are taking up the offer, which is very, very good. Now, if we come to the children's vaccination, so that's it's quite complicated, because if you remember, at a certain moment, the vaccine was offered. So first of all, the 12 to 18 were offered the vaccine, and this was 12 to 16. They were offered the vaccine already a while ago. Then the offer was extended to the 5 to 11, but only if they were in the at-risk groups. And at the time, we didn't have the proper pediatric doses, so we had to use the adult doses that take a fraction of that, etc. And that was done. Then there have been sessions for the 5 to 11. Then we got the vaccine from the UK, which is the
doses.
The famous 2,000 doses. And so far, we have had vaccines being delivered only at specific clinics. So putting all together, the 5 to 11, so far I think the figures is quite low, because we are just at 230 something, so quite limited. So what we are doing is now discussing with schools and trying to organize vaccination at schools. To do that, we have to have the consent from the parents, and that's what we are trying to organize. We've had already a positive response from one school, but we want to make sure that all the schools are involved and respond for that. So there is a big meeting going on this afternoon for that.
Okay. Do we know? Have we been able to identify any reasons why the numbers are so low for the 5 to 11-year-olds? We see worldwide, even though in some jurisdictions there are reports of an uptick again in the number of infections and things of that nature. But are people in the Cayman Islands becoming a little bit more complacent now as far as COVID-19 is concerned, when we see our numbers continuing to decrease? And then the question is, okay, first cruise ship is going to arrive on the 21st, next week, Monday. That puts us in another area that we have not been for quite a while, and how important it is for us to ensure that we do not let our guard down. We'll have that first cruise ship. It'll take some time for us to see, get figures to see if there's any impact, from that as well. What we'll do is we'll take a commercial break. When we return, I'd like for you to cover those areas as well, if you may, Dr. Newton. Folks, please stay tuned. The conversation with Dr. Artelia Newton will continue, so please stay tuned.
Are you feeling sick, but don't feel ill enough to go to the doctor? Ask your pharmacist for advice. Here at West Bay Pharmacy, our pharmacists have been trained to offer helpful, easy-to-understand advice on the treatment of everyday minor ailments for yourself and all the family. Anything from headaches, cough and sore throat, to cold sores, our pharmacist will know when medical help is needed and will not hesitate to refer you to your doctor if your symptoms demand it. Like doctors, our pharmacists have a professional code, which means all personal information you give them will be treated in the strictest confidence. Visit us today at West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
Hi, I'm remodeling our bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, Cayman's Kitchen and Bath Center.
JN Money, money touchdown. Send the money now, reach wow. You say you need some money, JN Money, I can send it in a hurry. Get through quick when you come collect your cash, or use a money card and swipe it in a flash. Send funds to any bank, yeah. Pay your bills quick, yeah. Low fees, you know what it, yeah. JN Money, we are pick, yeah. Send and receive funds at any JN Money location. It's fast, affordable, and convenient. Money touchdown with JN Money. Send funds to any bank, yeah. Pay your bills quick, yeah. Low fees, you know what it, yeah. JN Money, we are pick, yeah.
Call 345-945-2014 for details. Available at JN Money locations across the Cayman Islands.
The Ministry of Education invites all eligible Caymanians to apply for an Education Council Local Scholarship for the 2022-2023 academic year. To apply for a local scholarship or learn more about the various scholarship offerings, please visit the Scholarship Secretariat Unit's website at www.moescholarships.gov.ky. Applications close on Saturday, April 30th, 2022.
The Cayman Islands government is honoring our uniformed services during its National Heroes Day Awards ceremony in Cayman Brac, Saturday, 19th March, hosted by the Honorable Premier and the Minister for Culture. Uniformed Services personnel, past and present, will be recognized at an invitation-only event at the Aston Rutty Civic Center. Watch this year's National Heroes Day Awards ceremony on the Brac from the comfort of your own home on the CIG Facebook page, CIG TV, cable and YouTube channels. For more information, email the protocol office on national events at gov.ky or call 244-1780.
For the record with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Dr. Autilio Newton, Interim Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health and Wellness. We're talking about vaccinations. We're talking about our tourism, the arrival of the first cruise ship in the Cayman Islands. But our vaccination process continues as well. And as you know, that 2,000 doses of vaccine were recently received by the Cayman Islands, those to be administered to youngsters between the ages of 5 and 11. So far, the uptake has been relatively low, but there are programs and discussions taking place to make it available and to also inform those persons who may have an interest. If you have any questions or comments in relation to it, Dr. Newton is here and we welcome you. You can either email us at fortherecord, one word, fortherecord at candw.ky, or WhatsApp us 925-3261. Our phone line is also open, 1-800-534-8255, or toll-free number as well. Before we went to the commercial break, I asked Dr. Newton if she had any indications in terms of so far why the uptake is for between 5 and 11, why it's at the level that it is at, and how important it is for us to not drop our guard because we're venturing into new territory. New territory in the sense that cruise ships, our first cruise ship will arrive on the 21st, next week, Monday, the first one since the pandemic over 2 years ago. And so we're venturing into new territory, and we'll wait and see what happens there. Hopefully good things will happen as well. Dr. Newton, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jose. So let's talk first about the children. I think it's a combination of factors. One is probably the access. So, we need to make it easier for children to have the vaccine. And this is why we are trying to work with the schools. Second is for quite a while, from the start of this pandemic, there was the sort of evidence saying, children, they get a very mild disease, it's not big risk, and so on. And it's only with time that we have seen the real picture, which is becoming more and more evident. If you remember, at the beginning of the pandemic, so with the first wave and so on, which causes so much disruption and costs so many lives, basically all countries went more or less in lockdown, which meant that especially these young children, they were at home well protected because they were not interacting with anybody. If somebody was going out to buy grocery, weren't the children, were the adults. Yes. So in a sense, that very strong social measure had a huge impact on protecting all the population, but especially the children. But with time going on, passing on, and realizing how damaging it was to keeping children at home and not having proper education, etc., and with school reopening, and then with the arrival of the new variants, which are more transmissible, like the Omicron, and we know is more transmissible. Then we have started seeing the number of cases in children increasing. So it was the picture was distorted at the beginning, but we see now the children can get it. Yes, it is true. They, in the majority of cases, are fairly mild and so on. And this is why then you can expect parents saying, "Oh, why do I have to give yet another vaccine to my child?" Well, at the end of the day, even if he gets it, it's not a big deal. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, what is evident is that, yes, in most cases it's very mild, but there are very severe cases. And is quite staggering that here in the Cayman Islands, and again the precise figures will be published again on Wednesday. I think we published some things 2-3 weeks ago when we said we looked at all the admission below the age of 10, and I think at the time we were at about 15, but out of these 15, then there were 3 or 4 quite severe disease. I think we've had the further one quite severe. So far, we have had no deaths, which is touching wood. Yes. We will stay there. But no, this is some things that can be severe in children, and I think parents are slowly understanding that. So I can sympathize, I can see their point. There is also so much misinformation around. Yes. So, people trying to scare parents against the vaccine. The vaccine is really safe, has got very little side effects, which is what you would expect from any vaccine. There were those initial reports on slightly older children and their reaction involving the heart, etc., which have turned out to be extremely rare and very easy to treat. Okay. While on the other hand, we have seen the natural disease causing very, very severe problems. So I think it's a combination of factors. The only things we can do is to make the vaccine accessible, to explain over and over again that there is a real need to vaccinate the children, that the risk is just not worthwhile to take for parents of potentially allow the virus to infect their children and to cause some real severe disease. I think the one last point I would like to make, there was a report which was a preprint, so it's not peer-reviewed, a report from CDC USA on the efficacy of the vaccination in young people and showing us what they had looked across 10 states in the US where the hospital so basically parents bringing their children at emergency casualties there and then having treatment and then going back. No, it wasn't really looking at hospital admissions.
Yes.
There were different sources for that. And it looked like the vaccine was not vaccine efficacy in the 5 to 11 looked lower at first glance compared to the 12 to 15 and the 15 to 17. But in fact, if you read properly the report, the picture, what they are trying to say there is that because the vaccination of the younger children had started later, and basically because those children had been protected for longer time because of the isolation, you were comparing the vaccine efficacy against the Omicron. And if you take the Omicron, the vaccine efficacy against the Omicron, also in the older group, the vaccine efficacy is the same against this hospital episode, going to vaccine and emergency. When you then look, so there isn't a difference of vaccine being less effective in that group. No, it's because you were comparing to that wave.
Right.
In particular, if you look then at hospital admissions, so something severe, so the child, yes, they've gone to hospital, but then they have been admitted because it's something severe, then the protection is very equivalent in all the age groups. The point of this paper, which as I said is a preprint and has got limitations because it's only in 10 states, not in 50 plus states, and is USA, because it doesn't control for confounding variables, such, for example, where these people, these children who have ended up in hospital less likely to use the mask or to wash their hands, things like that, which is impossible to control in that type of study. So the point of the study was to say that not only vaccination is strongly recommended in all the 3 different age groups, but already there was evidence to call for a booster dose in children between the age of 12 to 17. That was the point of the paper. Not to say that the vaccine is not effective. They were saying there might be consideration to look at a booster dose, because as you know now, we're not boosting those children. And the other things that then they finally said, for the 5 to 11, it was too early to say whether there is a need for a booster or not.
You just answered a question that one of our listeners has actually posed as to whether or not a booster would be necessary later on for those 5 to 11-year-olds.
Yeah, it is a bit early, but the point of the paper was to say it's most likely we need to have a booster for the 12 to 17. We already do for the 17 to 18 or 16 to 18. It should be extended to that. So this is as far as the children vaccination. Now, coming to the cruise ship.
What we'll do, Dr. Newton, so that I don't have to interrupt you during the course of that explanation about the cruise ships, we're going to take a commercial break. Folks, when we return, conversation with Dr. Artelia Newton, Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health and Wellness, wealth and as well. We'll continue, so please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
Since March 2004, West Bay Pharmacy has kept their doors open to the local communities, even before, during, and after Hurricane Ivan. At West Bay Pharmacy, our staff provides so much more than pharmaceutical excellence. From the moment you walk through our doors to completing your cash out, our staff will have put your healthcare concerns at ease. We would like to take this moment to thank our loyal friends and customers. To us at West Bay Pharmacy, our patients are our primary concern. We provide thorough background checks and precise calculations to ensure your medical safety. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
Thinking of getting a hybrid but don't know much about them? Vant Motors has 3 great reasons why you should own the Toyota CHR. Hybrid save fuel, run cleaner, reduce CO2 emissions, and even recharge their batteries while being driven. So there's no need to plug in your hybrid, making it both economical and fun to drive. And you don't have to replace your battery every 2 years. The CHR Hybrid is reliable, providing up to 1 million kilometers on the same battery and engine. Oh, and now you can save $2,000 off the Toyota CHR, starting at only $33,500.
That's way more than 3 reasons.
True, but the best one is that it's on sale now. Test drive the Toyota CHR today at Vant Motors, Walkers Road, while stocks last.
Tune in every Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. for Radio Cayman's Midday Newscast. Radio Cayman, the People's Station, your trusted official source for the latest news. The 12 p.m. news is proudly brought to you by Health City Cayman Islands. World-class healthcare within your reach.
Your Radio Cayman 6 p.m. news, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Logic, your life connected.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Dr. Artelia Newton, Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health and Wellness. And I said wealth just now. Well, if you have good health, that in itself is a form of wealth, the best wealth that you can probably have. That because you can't necessarily buy good health with wealth. I sort of took all of that and mixed that all up there. But we're talking about vaccinations in the Cayman Islands. We're also talking about the imminent arrival of cruise ships in our shores. That will take place next week, Monday, the 21st of March. We know that our leaders, those in the medical field as well as those in the policy-making field, our political leaders have been quite involved and engaged in ensuring that this rollout happens as seamless as possible and that any adverse impact is mitigated as well. So we're going to have Dr. Newton talk to us and tell us about all of the precautionary measures that have been put in place and how we were able to arrive at a decision to welcome at least our first cruise ship back on next week, Monday. Dr. Newton.
Thank you, Jose. So, yes, lots of work excuse me, has gone into the preparation to make sure that the arrival of the cruise ship, which is extremely good news for the tourism in the islands, is done in the safest possible way. So there has been a number of meetings with representatives from the cruise ship industry and cabinet, and then additional meetings with the health representatives of the cruise ships and the health representative from here and so on. So let me explain what is the mechanism, what are the measures which are in place. Anybody, all the different cruise ship companies, they all require that passengers are vaccinated, and also their crew members are vaccinated. they, in addition to that, they have to have a test before they come on board. And this is variable, is between 2-3 days before they go.
Okay.
For the passengers who are not vaccinated, because it's a matter of age, let's say, we all know that the vaccination of children in any country in the world is not at that level where you can say, if your child who is 5 years old is not vaccinated, you're not coming on board, because we know it's very much at the beginning. So for all those people who do not are not vaccinated, mostly children, because there are very few contraindications to vaccine, they have to be tested on the day before they embark. Okay. And if they come positive, they're not coming on board. All the cruise ship, they have the ability to test on board. And they have, they explained to us, they have 2 types of testing they can do. They can do the LFT, the lateral flows, or they can do the rapid PCR near patient test. They have isolation facilities. So if somebody comes up positive, they all start having symptoms, they can isolate the person. They then do the contact tracing of all the close contacts who are put in isolation, and the staff who has been in contact, and they are put. The other things that they have is there are no buffet on board, so where people touch with their hands, even if they so all the meals are served at a table, or if there is a buffet, it's not the person cannot touch the utensils to take the food, but it's served even there. So there is all this series of very strict measures. On top of that, what we asked, because there was a bit of negotiation going on there, because the cruise ships, they were saying, we might have cases on board, but we think that until we get to 2 or 3% of our passengers affected, this is not an outbreak, and so we will still be allowed to come. And at that point I said, no, I'm sorry, that's not acceptable, because you might have 2,000-3,000 people on a boat. 3% is quite a number. And I said, what is more important is you tell us how many you have on board, then we make the decision whether you have an outbreak or not, and then we will tell you whether you are allowed to come into port or not.
Excellent.
Because the public has to, I want to reassure that there are the maritime regulations, which are already quite strict, and these are independent from COVID. They have always been there, and so any ship who comes to a port, the day before they have to prepare a health declaration. On the health declaration, they have to say if they have anybody on board who is sick. That's not just COVID, anything. Be this a passenger or be this a member of the crew. So what we have done now, we have added 2 more columns to that health declaration, so that they will tell us not just if they have COVID cases on board, but they will tell us also the vaccination status of each individual, be this a member of crew or a passenger. And I've asked also for the testing that they did before they came on board. So as you can imagine, there is a number of measures which have been put in place. And the most important thing is that we said absolutely not only people who are COVID positive, they can come ashore, but also their contacts, they cannot come on the day. or anybody, because the declaration is done the day before, so on the day, if anybody is experiencing symptoms or whatever, those people cannot come ashore. So on top of that, we still have the mandatory masks for going into enclosed space. So these passengers will have to respect that.
Yes.
So at this point, let's be, hopeful that things should go in the right way. We know the cruise ship have started already since a while in other countries. They do declare when they have COVID cases on board. And as I said before, we will be able, through our Port Health service, to know what is the real situation, and we can ask as many questions as we want and get that reassurance to allow them to come into port, give the certificate of free pratique, and then allow people to come ashore.
Okay. Now we know that air travel and travel by boat, they're completely different. But if our experience here in the Cayman Islands as far as air travel is concerned, I haven't seen any indication that there has been any adverse effect based on the procedures and policies that we have in place for air travel. If that is any indication of what we can expect, as far as cruise passengers are concerned, bearing in mind that the numbers on board a cruise ship and the numbers on board an aircraft completely different, even though sometimes the proximity, may be closer on an aircraft as well. But does that give us any room for comfort, what we have experienced so far, the good experience we have had so far with air travel?
Yeah, I think this is quite an important point because some people are saying, "Oh, well, we more relaxed with the cruise ship compared to the air travel." In my opinion, that's not correct, because people who go on a cruise, they still are tested, they're still required to have vaccination. The difference is that it happens through the cruise ship management rather than directly from. So there isn't a travel Cayman form that people have to fill in if they go on a cruise ship. But this is basically the equivalent is done by the cruise ship themselves. So that is the only difference. Otherwise, people are tested and are required to be vaccinated to go on a cruise ship, exactly as people who are catching a plane to come here. So I think there is no relenting of measures for cruise passengers. You're right, we have had a good indication from reopening, increasing the travel flux to the Cayman Islands, and things are pretty good so far. Let's hope it will continue. Of course, we will have to be, and we are expecting the same with the cruise ship, basically. Because remember one thing, the cruise ship industry has no interest whatsoever in not controlling the situation on their ship.
They know what they have been through for the last 2 years. So
exactly. So they will put all the possible efforts to avoid to have cases on board, or not to control that, or to have an outbreak on board. And that is a great reassurance to us.
Okay. Dr. Newton, we're going to take a commercial break. When we return, this will be our last break, and we'll have about 12 minutes left after that. I want to give you an opportunity to go over anything that you want. If I have any questions from any of our listeners, in the meantime, I will pose them to you. But the conversation with Dr. Newton will continue after this short commercial break.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay. Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice-cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, Cayman.
Tune in Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. for the Daily Sports Report, covering local, regional, and international sports. Proudly brought to you by Dr. Wayne Porter, offering a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. Call 946-9020 to book your appointment today.
Let me tell you something. I've been fishing our island since I was a boy, and it's getting harder and harder to get a good catch. Maybe it's because there are so many more people in Cayman than ever before. Maybe it's because of how the climate is changing. I don't know about that, but I do know that I want to be able to keep fishing and teach my children to fish one day as well. So it makes sense to me that we have certain areas and certain times of the year to fish for certain things. This year, a new rule was placed on fishing for grouper that says no one can fish for nass or grouper anywhere in Cayman from December 1st to April 30th while they're spawning. There is also no fishing allowed at all for any kinds of fish in the spawning zones, and no scuba diving there either. It feels unfair not to be allowed to fish where my dad taught me to fish, but I know that being patient now means we can keep fishing for many more generations. We're all in this together, right?
For more info, download the Cayman DOE app or visit doe.ky.
Come join the viewing party for the 70th edition of the International Miss World Pageant, live from Puerto Rico. Wednesday, March 16th at 6 p.m. Carew, Camana Bay. Hosted by the Miss World Cayman Islands Committee. Meet our past Miss World queens and learn more about the Miss World Cayman Pageant and Girl Power Cayman. All are invited. Join us at the Miss World viewing party, Carew, Wednesday, March 16th at 6 p.m. See you there.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're on the last leg of the show this morning with Dr. Autelia Newton, Interim Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health and Wellness. We're talking about vaccinations, also talking about the imminent arrival of our first cruise ship since the pandemic over 2 years ago here in the Cayman Islands. That cruise ship will be arriving next Monday, the 21st of March 2022. So, Dr. Newton, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Jose. So, as I said, this is great news. We are fairly confident we have put in place a number of measures which should ensure that this arrival of tourists, which is so welcome, is going to be safe, and it's not going to create problems. Mm-hmm. Of course, we have a surveillance system here, which then allows us to spot anything untoward happening. If we should see a spike in cases and so on. There is a surveillance system at regional level, which is carried out by CARFA, whereby they produce regular information, which is distributed across the country, the states in the Caribbean, which tells which cruise ship has got cases on board. Mm-hmm. So they have a traffic light system, so there is green, amber and red. Okay. So you know exactly, green they don't have cases, amber they have got a few, and then red obviously they have got an outbreak. And this is why there are mechanisms in place to make sure that you don't get lots of people coming ashore who are infected and start spreading it.
Yeah. One of our listeners wanted to know what advice would you have for those persons who are in the transport industry who transport passengers from the cruise ships, but they themselves have either refused to be vaccinated, or some who are not in a position because of medical reasons to be vaccinated. Any words of advice for them?
Yeah. Well, obviously, these people should get, it's strongly recommended that they get vaccinated, because if you are transporting people, you are in a very close environment. Of course, wearing your mask is very, very important. It's a good protection. But then you have to have that also the passengers that you are transporting have to wear masks. You have to have a lot of hand sanitizer around you. Except you reduce the risk there, but why not getting vaccinated and making sure that you are protected and you reduce the chances of getting infected. As I said before, there are very, very little contraindication to vaccination, medical reason for that, and is only severe allergy to components of the vaccine, which is the main thing. So it's a personal choice, but it's up to you what you want to do. My advice would be certainly to get vaccinated and to keep with your social distancing and process, above all wearing the mask, and keep your hands clean, disinfect your vehicle as much as possible, and ask for people who come inside to wear the mask and to disinfect their hands.
Okay. I think you've answered this already. One of our listeners wanted to know whether or not cruise ship passengers are required to wear masks on our tour buses and on boats. Yeah. Okay. Now, I'm not sure whether or not you would know this, Dr. Newton, and maybe more opposed to the tourism area, but have the cruise ships in any way altered their itineraries to avoid as few stops as possible on their journey? We know that people go on cruises because they want to visit various destinations, but it would appear to me that the more destinations that one particular cruise may take those passengers, the likelihood of exposure is much greater for them. Have they done anything in terms of altering that? And then another question: if we were to see, or when, if any time, if there are any negative effects from the cruise passengers, when would we likely to see an uptick in numbers and stuff like that? And how would we be able to know whether or not they're from cruise or from otherwise? Yes.
Okay. So this is all to do with the incubation period, which is on average around the 3-4 days. So when we have a new case here, they are contacted by the public health team and the HSA, and one of the things you ask is, where do you work? What do you do? So this is where you get your connection, and you understand whether the possible source could be somebody from cruise ship. So that's how you will see it. It will take 1 or 2 weeks to see the effects, but you will see it, because you will be able to link the profession of the person, the type of work they do, with the exposure, the most likely exposure from contact with cruise ship. And at that point, you start reviewing your policy and thinking, is this really out of control? Is it dangerous? And so on. The other question you asked me, I'm afraid I don't have an answer.
Sure.
I know that there was a lot of discussion here in trying to, and the Ministry of Tourism tried really very hard to see whether Cayman could be the first stop rather than them going all around, etc. And because most of the cruise ship, they start from Miami, it wasn't an unreasonable request. But in practical terms, it's quite difficult because the way the industry works, they have to plan their trips at least 2 years in advance. So it's not easy to change things at the last moment. And the other things that they pointed out was if we were all doing that, you are expecting all the cruise ship to be Cayman to be the first port of call after Miami, then you will have so many boats
at
in
one
day. And when they're out. So, you have to have a bit of a balance there. But whether the cruise ship industry in itself has tried to reduce the number of stops, I won't be able to answer that.
Okay. If I can ask your indulgence on one more question that we have from our audience, and this person says, could you ask the good doctor if there will be a requirement for regular COVID testing for frontline workers, for example, the tour bus drivers? Also, will the snorkel gear, etc., be sanitized? And finally, will there be a mask mandate? Oh, okay. That one was asked already about the tour buses and the drivers and stuff, about the mask mandate.
Yeah.
So
the testing.
Yes.
So at the moment, we are trying to move away from testing because testing was the only tool we had before the vaccine.
Right.
So if on the one hand, we are trying to reduce testing, we can then start introducing more testing because that would be a bit of a step backwards rather than forward.
Yes.
So I would say at the moment there are no plans, but we want to see how it goes with this first reopening and see whether there are any effects or negative effects or anything like that. We're banking very much on the vaccination rates in Cayman to protect our people. But, of course, as explained before, with the surveillance system, if we see anything going wrong and so on, then we will think again and reassess the situation and put in the appropriate measures.
Okay. Dr. Newton, want to give you an opportunity for some closing comments, for our audience as well.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Ossie. It's been a great pleasure, as always, to come here, and I sincerely hope that I have been very, very clear on what I'm trying to say. There is a final thought. COVID is not over completely. People think that by some sort of magic we can switch it off and go back to 2019 before it started. It is a virus which is highly unstable because it's a young virus. And therefore, we can always see we have the potential to see new variant coming in, things changing and so on. It is a very dynamic situation. You might have heard that in some places, some countries in Europe, they're seeing a new increase in cases. Some other places in Asia, like Hong Kong and now China, they're seeing an increase in cases. This is how it's most likely led by the latest variant, the latest Omicron variant arriving, being very easy to spread, and this is why you see these cases. And also because in some countries in Europe they are taking away the social distancing, wearing of masks, etc. So it is quite natural to expect a bit of an increase. So we will keep our surveillance up. I will keep you informed and how things evolve. But please keep safe and be wise. Take up the vaccine if you haven't been vaccinated yet or haven't had your booster. Vaccinate your children. Keep washing your hands, and for the time being, keep wearing your mask inside.
Okay.
Thank you.
One final question. Say many of us received our booster in October. Do we need to reboost if they received a booster in their October?
Okay, so you're talking here the fourth dose.
Yes.
There are no plans for fourth dose at the moment. In some countries they are thinking about it. We'll have to see what evidence will become available at international level before we move towards something like that.
Okay, Dr. Newton, I want to thank you very much again. You were quite clear in terms of your explanations, and it's quite obvious based on the response that we're getting from our listeners as well that they fully understand everything. I want to continue to thank you for the sterling work that you do to keep the people of the Cayman Islands here safe as well. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles, as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, wherever that may be. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or even those who crave. So I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling Dwayne Banks at 12:15 for Talk Today. And as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these three beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Coca-Cola, available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors. Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola. Brand Source Home Gallery, inspiring luxury. West Bay Pharmacy, taking care of your health. And JN Money. From abroad to yard. Fast, affordable, convenient.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This